A warm welcome back to the channel. In today's aviation news recap, KLM has announced new flights. Meanwhile, there's route developments at Cathay Pacific, but where I'd like to begin proceedings is with Boeing, who will resume deliveries of wide-body aircraft such as the 777 and the 787 to China in what can only be described as a big move for the manufacturer that has really struggled in the country. A suspension of deliveries of this aircraft came following not the first review by the Chinese regulator, who we know to have been closely monitoring Boeing for some time now, essentially looking through for any faults in their processes, and unfortunately, there are indeed many of these. China was the first to ground the 737 MAX at the end of the 2010s and following the second incident of ET302 in March 2019. Some considered their immediate response to be over the top. However, it would later go on to be the right call, and they ended up starting a very much domino effect. And the overcautious approach protected not just customers of the aircraft, but also workers at airlines. However, now, stretching into 2024, the overly cautious approach has continued as Boeing's faced new quality and operational difficulties. Several times this year, China has pushed to investigate flaws with Boeing's products and temporarily suspend deliveries until these were sorted. These suspensions, which the Chinese regulator argues are required, profoundly impact the American plane makers' backlog, which grew not only during the pandemic, but has now severely impacted their ability to truly thrive. Reuters reports that wide-body jets are now slated to resume, and according to their sources, 737 MAX deliveries will also recommence this month, after being suspended for not the first time, again because China has moved to investigate several faults on this aircraft. They don't feel comfortable with their customers flying the type. The delivery suspension that I speak of, placed on Boeing, has continued to impact its own ability to move through its inventory and upcoming backlog. Boeing has orders in the thousands for its aircraft types, but because of their persistent quality issues that then trickle down to delivery suspensions and then delivery delays, these are hurting the manufacturer dearly. Furthermore, considering that the FAA has barred production increases out of fear of the negative effects on quality management, Boeing's 2024 performance has been nowhere near optimal and will impact them financially as well. Additionally, airline customers now are feeling the effects of production delays and an inability to acquire their planes on time. The knock-on effect of delayed deliveries to China and all customers are truly impacting everyone, and Boeing is trying to stop the bleeding, but it won't be an overnight job, and that means your customers are going to continue to feel the effects. And obviously, situations like these, which see China continuously suspending deliveries, don't help Boeing in the slightest. Moving down south to Australia, Cathay Pacific has unveiled plans to boost its services to Perth in the country, with the addition of 5 more weekly flights between Hong Kong and Perth. The changes will come into effect on the 28th of October 2024, as Cathay Pacific clearly intends to strengthen ties between Hong Kong and Western Australia. Cathay Pacific has actually been seeing solid demand across all its regions. This is especially true for its connectivity between Western Australia and its home, and this is a location that has been seeing growing appeal as a tourism city. According to John Carey, the acting tourism minister for Western Australia, the state that Perth calls home, driving more travellers to the region is one of the more important parts of the new flight increases. Cathay Pacific's bumping up of weekly flights will inject important visitor spending into the economy, while creating new jobs in the tourism and hospitality industries. Ultimately, the route is being beefed up so much that Cathay will offer more weekly flights to Perth than it did before the pandemic. And this is because the company has really been focused on rebuilding its network, while also growing wherever possible. And decisions such as these will be crucial in reaching its objective of 100% pre-pandemic capacity and flying by early 2025, something it has outlined in previous releases. The airline says says that the additional flights are going to benefit everyone, but especially a focus on students that'll be traveling between the two locations, maybe those that are visiting family and friends, and also there's an importance on business travelers, with these two locations being important gateways for many different industries, and more flights will facilitate likely far easier travel. Thanks to the addition of 5 more weekly flights, Cathay Pacific will transport 140,000 seats annually to Perth inbound and outbound. Furthermore, the flights will offer a fantastic opportunity for local exporters to transport important cargo between Western Australia and not just Hong Kong, but the airline says that connectivity onwards to Northern Asian cities will also be possible. On to the final story. KLM has announced plans to begin serving Portland from Amsterdam year-round, adding further connectivity to its transatlantic operations. KLM says flights will commence on October 27, 2024, with the service to be offered thrice weekly, on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays between Schiphol and Portland. However, thrice weekly flights will only be available during the 24-25 winter schedule. This is important because KLM says that in time for the 2025 summer schedule, they will be beefing up these flights to 5 times per week. As part of that revised schedule that, don't worry, I'll get into a little bit more specifically later, KLM says they will operate on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. KLM will utilize its Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner between the two locations, which comes in a 3-class configuration. The 787-9s can seat 30 in World Business Class, 21 in Premium Comfort, and 224 in Economy. Portland is the largest city in Oregon and a year-round tourist destination, so for KLM to be adding this, it is seen as an important step in growth across North America from Amsterdam Schiphol. As well, it is worth noting that Portland will become the 21st direct destination across North America for the airline. They highlight their partnership as well with Delta Airlines, who have served the two locations for 15 years. With KLM joining, we will see capacity boosts, which should go on to improve connectivity for travelers. The flight has been given the KL615 KL616 flight number, and it will depart Amsterdam at 10:25 in the morning, arriving into Portland 11:25 in the morning the same time. Just remember, these times are local to their respective city. After 2 hours on the ground, the 787 will depart Portland at 1:25 p.m, arriving the following morning back into Amsterdam at 7:50. The schedule is for the 2024-2025 winter season. It is important again to note that KLM has made ever so slight revisions to the route during the summer. Now, this is not just in the form of its frequency and the days it will be operating, but also we've seen the adjustment of departure and arrival times. For example, during the summer, the flight will depart Amsterdam Schiphol 15 minutes later, arriving into Portland also 5 minutes later, whereas your returning KL616 will stay relatively the same. That's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It is certainly appreciated. Take care, be safe. I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow, where there'll be another recap on the latest industry news. And we'll fly.